Hello everyone, I'm Easy History, and today we are going to talk about the Pearl Harbor. After World War I, Japan was seen as one of the great winning nations with a high level of development. Nonetheless, enormous socio-economic swings on a domestic and global scale had pushed Japan into a severe crisis. To escape the scenario and address the shortage of raw materials and the consumer market for Japanese goods, Japan has fascized the government apparatus to conduct aggression against resource-rich surrounding countries. When Japan joined the Axis powers and entered World War II, this trend persisted. This expansion was the source of America's discontent. The United States promptly imposed sanctions on Japan, focusing primarily on oil. The Japanese economy was highly dependent on petroleum imports from the United States. As a result, tensions between the United States and Japan reached a peak. That was also when the Japanese war planners decided to launch a preemptive strike on the United States to deter retaliation. The United States also prepared for this confrontation by stationing the Pacific Fleet in the Hawaiian Islands and establishing a remote defense bridge with a substantial military base in the Philippines. Japan has secretly prepared meticulously for its strike plan. It looked for oil and rubber resources in Southeast Asia, specifically in Malaya and the East Indies. As a result, Japan did not want the United States to interfere in its strategy. To accomplish this, Japan intended to launch a preemptive strike on the U.S. Pacific Fleet located in Hawaii. The United States also expected the Japanese to attack their forces. Still, the Philippines did not expect the Japanese to attack Hawaii because it will be easier to cut off the oil transportation route to Japan from the Philippines. Due to that blunder, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, even though no declaration of war had been issued. On Sunday, December 7, 1941, at 7 a.m., President Franklin Roosevelt, the United States president at the time, declared that the day will live in infamy. A date which will live in infamy. The Japanese attack fleet comprised 6 aircraft carriers and around 350 aircraft of various types. The heavy cruiser entered the destroyers, escorted by battleships. Along with the fleet, there are forces such as submarines, transport ships, and supply ships. Japan's main strike force included approximately 350 aircraft, including 78 Mitsubishi A6M Type 11 fighters or Zeros, the 129 Type 99 IG D3A dive bombers or VAL could carry one 250-kilogram bomb under the fuselage and two 60-kilogram bombs under the wings. 143 Type 97 Nakajima B5N torpedo planes or Kates, each with a torpedo or an 800-kilogram bomb. 49 of them were carrying 800-kilogram bombs, while the remaining 94 were carrying torpedoes. On the side of the US fleet in Hawaii at the time, the Pacific Fleet was regarded as the most powerful in the world. This fleet consists of approximately 170 ships of various types, including battleship units consisting of 8 cruisers and 6 ships. Destroyers are comprised of 32 ships, as well as a variety of submarines and other fleets. There are also 43,000 soldiers and officers based in Hawaii, 5 airports, and approximately 400 military aircraft of various types on the archipelago. With such a superior force, the American had no reason to believe that if Japan wants to attack the US, it should avoid Pearl Harbor, the Pacific Fleet's command center. So, the preparations for the epic conflict that was about to take place were completed. On November 26, 1941, the Japanese fleet set sail from northern Japan for Hawaii. To guarantee secrecy, the fleet was ordered to sink all ships intercepted en route to neutral countries, and if they come across an American ship, turn around. Fortunately, the Japanese fleet did not come across any ships along the way. The fleet was near the northern Hawaiian Islands by December 6, 1941. The Japanese fleet moved from an operational formation to a fighting formation at dawn on December 7, 1941. The Japanese fleet was ready for action around 3:30 a.m. At 5:30 a.m., 4 reconnaissance planes flew off to scout the Hawaiian Islands. The initial strike was completed at 6 a.m. with 189 aircraft from 6 carriers though 6 aircraft experienced technical difficulties. This attack was organized into 3 groups. The first group is in charge of destroying any battleships or aircraft carriers that may be present. This group consists of 50 Kate planes armed with 800 kilograms steel-piercing bombs divided into 4 teams and 40 Kate planes armed with torpedoes divided into 4 sections. The second group's mission is to raid Ford Island and Wheeler Air Force Base. This unit consists of 54 Val dive bombers armed with 250-kilogram bombs with multiple uses. The third group's mission is to destroy planes at airports. This group has 45 Zero fighters for air control and target bombardment. At 6:20 a.m., 183 planes were launched into the sky in a V formation and flew towards the Hawaiian Islands. 4 reconnaissance planes reported that the Pacific Fleet was gathering at Pearl Harbor at 7:30 a.m. Sunday morning in Pearl Harbor was relatively silent. The majority of the sailors, officers, soldiers, and support personnel were still sleeping under warm blankets and soft mattresses. Some people got up early to take care of business, not anticipating that this quiet airspace would be overrun with Japanese military planes for a few minutes. When the Japanese planes neared an American radar station, they saw groups of Japanese planes but mistook them for the American plane heading in. The Japanese planes could see all 8 battleships around 7:40 a.m., with Oklahoma standing close to Maryland. Then there's West Virginia, which is just next to Tennessee. Then Arizona took a position in front of the manufacturing ship Vestal, while Nevada was at the end. And leading California was a little out of place, and a little ahead was the flagship of the Pennsylvania fleet, escorted by 2 destroyers. There were numerous other cruisers and destroyers, but no aircraft carriers. At 7:48 a.m., the code 222 was transmitted and signaled by a black flare, indicating the start of the war. The code Tora, Tora, Tora was transmitted by the commander of the Japanese attack 7:53 minutes before the first bomb was detonated on Pearl Harbor, indicating that the attack has ensured surprise. The famous telegram to the US command, "An airstrike hit Pearl Harbor. This is not an exercise." However, certain American military officials reacted promptly to return fire on the Japanese before the torpedoes were fired. The first explosives were set off south of Ford Island. Many pilots mistook Utah for an aircraft carrier at 7:55 a.m. from the air because it was stationed in a different place on the other side of Ford Island and had an empty deck, so that around a half-dozen Japanese planes had crashed and assaulted this defenseless spear ship continually. Utah, a 33-year-old battleship, was decommissioned and converted into a training vessel. Utah was overthrown at 8:12 a.m. The light cruiser Raleigh, Detroit, and seaplane carrier Tangier stood near him. The Raleigh was damaged and torpedoed. When Japanese planes encountered the light cruiser Helena, covered by the mine layer Oglala, they circled south and reversed course at 7:57 a.m. However, the torpedo slid through the tight opening and straight hit the hull, knocking Helena and her surrounding mine layer out of the ring. Torpedo planes attack in a route perpendicular to the side of the major battleships almost simultaneously at 7:57 a.m. from the southeast. The battleships Oklahoma and West Virginia was the first to be torpedoed. California is up next. The torpedo planes were constantly dropping lethal torpedoes that shook the entire Pearl Harbor neighborhood. Despite the surprise attack, the ships on the ships were notified and immediately moved into combat positions to shoot back at the Japanese planes and deal damage. When multiple torpedoes hit California, Japanese planes took care of it as well. Nevada was quickly identified as a target for the new strike force. It was torpedoed and only slightly damaged. Oklahoma eventually capsized. The remaining ships are sinking or seriously damaged as well. As a result of the overwhelming torpedo plane strike, the battleships outside of the moored configuration were eliminated from the conflict and progressively sank. The warships that were shielded on the inside and attacked by aiming to drop torpedoes were rendered ineffectual. So it's time for the bombers to take the stage with bombs weighing 250 kilograms and 800 kilograms respectively. The major objectives were battleships of the Arizona, Tennessee, and Maryland classes. They were all hit by bombs dropped by Japanese planes and engulfed in flames. The Arizona was hit by a bomb that fell through the chimney to the side of the magazine, causing the ship to explode, split in half, and sink with all of its crew. Nevada sustained minor damage but promptly engaged the Japanese planes. A small Japanese force fought in the war, consisting of 5 mini-submarines, 5 of which invaded Pearl Harbor. Before entering the combat, some were discovered and sunk. Notably, a Japanese mini-submarine fired 2 torpedoes at 2 Curtiss ships and the destroyer Monaghan, but both missed, allowing Monaghan to discover and sink it. Another mini-submarine ran around, and a sailor was taken prisoner, becoming the Pacific Theater's first Japanese prisoner. The others could have vanished someplace in the Pearl Harbor region. The second attack wave's planes took off at 7:15 a.m., consisting of 171 aircraft, 54 B-5Ns, 81 D-3As, and 36 A-6Ms. 4 planes were unable to take off owing to technical issues, and the second round of strikes began about 8:54 a.m. This second wave of strikes aims to finish off the unfinished targets from the first round. The crippled battleship Nevada attempted to avoid the dive bombers' bomb groups while returning fierce fire. But after a while, it was also hit by a bomb, and the ship hit the shore and ran aground. So out of the 8 battleships, 7 were assaulted. The flagship Pennsylvania was docked in a safe lock. That is also why, during the first wave, torpedoes had a difficult time reaching their ship. 2 destroyer escorts flanked it, and numerous bombs were dropped on the 2 destroyed destroyers. At the same time, Pennsylvania was only harmed by Japanese bombers scooping up valuable objectives. Sure, the destroyer is no exception. The Curtiss was fortunate to dodge the torpedo from the mini-sub, but it was hit by planes immediately afterwards, as was the Raleigh. As the result of the modest bombardments, the fight was gradually ended. The primary purpose of Japan was to attack battleships, which were the pride of all navies at the moment. Hitting it also deals the opponent with a psychological blow. Furthermore, the Japanese destroyed other valuable battleships, airfield, and planes on them. Hundreds of American planes were bombed and damaged by bombers and fighters. The surprise attack on American planes of all types, neatly lined up side by side in hangars or airports, made Japanese pilots pray. Most American planes were damaged at the moment, and just a few could fly up to fight the Japanese planes because the ammo storage was locked, the anti-aircraft gun emplacements were destroyed or lacked ammunition, or they returned fire but were ineffectual. There were 2 groups of American planes at the time. The first is the B-17 Flying Fortress, which flies from the mainland to the archipelago, and the second is the U.S. aircraft carrier, which passes from the west of the archipelago. They saw the smoke and fire at Pearl Harbor, but they all assumed it was the US Navy practicing. They only recognized there was an issue when Japanese jets charged at the American planes and opened fire. The formation of American planes grew disorganized, and many were shot down, but not by the enemy. Also, American pilots were at risk of being shot down by their colleagues. The message came from the Ground Air Defense Force. During the chaos, they couldn't tell the enemy from us or the sort of aircraft, so they assumed it was hostile aircraft camouflaged to protect their eyes. It was rather amusing for American planes flying in from other places to arrive at such a time of unrest. However, the American planes shot down 11 Japanese aircraft, with just 2 lieutenants, George Welch and Kenneth Taylor, achieving 7 jets. A mistaken Japanese bomb only hit Honolulu. Another 40 explosions were produced by US air defenses in the city, killing and injuring 68 civilians. At 9:45 a.m., the commander directed all Japanese aircraft to return to the fleet to halt the attack. Several Japanese generals urged the Third Offensive at the time, at Pearl Harbor, attack the fuel storage, maintenance facilities, and locks. Admiral Nagumo weighted the hazards of destruction, which may be mitigated by American aviation forces from Pearl Harbor or the mainland, as well as the capacity to supply the Japanese fleet. As a result, the Japanese fleet returned to Japan. The failure to target critical American facilities was why the Americans quickly rebuilt the Pacific Fleet's strength. Several battleships and other ships were rescued for repair and rehabilitation. Since then, the United States has given the Japanese a swift blow. Result of the raid killed 2,335 Americans, 68 of whom were civilians. The majority were killed when American anti-aircraft shells missed residential areas, while another 1,139 were injured. American soldiers died primarily due to ships being damaged, sunk, or burned while swimming in the oil-slick sea and catching fire. 18 ships, including 4 battleships, were sunk or badly damaged. 188 aircrafts were destroyed, while 159 were injured. More casualties were also suffered as a result of the Japanese attack on the barracks. On the Japanese side, 55 pilots and 9 submariners were killed, with 1 captured. 29 aircraft were lost in the combat, and another 74 were damaged by anti-aircraft fire from the ground. Summary of the battle. The Battle of Pearl Harbor teaches us about the need for vigilance and the enemy's subjectivity in military operations. It is the solution to all problems. The penalty of not imagining the enemy's offensive ability cost the Americans dearly due to neglecting defense, but the lesson is still valid 75 years later. Japan launched a preemptive strike against the United States and temporarily halted the Pacific Fleet. This laid the groundwork for Japan's fast expansion over the Pacific and Indian Oceans. Japan delivered a critical blow, reawakening the American Titan and driving it into World War II. You've just finished watching the video. Let me know what you think by leaving a comment below. Please like and share if you enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe to Easy History and ring the bell so you don't miss the next exciting content.